6:01. So at this time, I would like to open tonight's HPDD Review Board meeting, 6:01. First up on the agenda is the meeting minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? You know, I reviewed the minutes myself. I have one question, if I may. On the second page, there's a sentence that says, I believe this is Mike Sullivan. It says, Mike said that adding a community center would be of no benefit to the town. And Jim Susi advised that it may increase HOA fees higher than potential buyers want to pay. I don't remember that. Does anybody else remember that? And I'm not saying it was said or it wasn't. I just don't recall it. So, for instance, I don't remember Jim Susi speaking, but he may have.
I remember Jim saying something about the HOA fees going up and that Rutland couldn't support it.
Okay.
But I'm not sure Mike is here to speak to what he said. I don't think that part was quite accurate.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, could you just repeat what I said?
Yes, I will. Mike said that adding a community center would be of no benefit to the town.
Well, if I said that, it's kind of taken out of context. What I obviously...
Well, no, I think what you meant was, you know, if they built a community center for them up there, it wouldn't be a benefit of the town's people. So
that's right, but it kind of sounds like I'm playing it down like they shouldn't do that.
Mike, I can reword it.
I just didn't see that struck, but I'll leave that up to you. It's your board.
Maybe a private community center would not be a benefit to the rest of the town, something to that effect.
Maybe a direct.
I think that's what you were inferring.
Yes, maybe a direct benefit to the town.
Sure, I can amend that.
Thank you, Tamika.
No problem.
Anybody have any other questions or concerns or any issues? All right, hearing none.
Make a motion
Hear a
to
motion?
approve the minutes with correction.
Thank you, Dick. I'll second it. Is there any discussion? Okay, at this time, can we have a roll call vote? I vote yes to accept the minutes.
Dan Reed, yes.
Dick Williams, yes.
Purrington, yes.
Briggs, abstain.
Okay, no nays, the motion carries. Minutes are accepted for the March 10th meeting. Okay, thank you all. At this time, I'd like to open up the public hearing for the, the Harbor Classic Homes concept plan review. We have received a new concept plan from Mr. Peter Campobasso, attorney for the HCH Builders. And just a couple general comments. He maximized the quantity of units up on that plan. I would, just as a general comment at this time, Peter, and the rest of the HCH team, that density is quite extensive. It's a large project. There's an awful lot of units there. And personally, I'm not sure if that's really, that amount of density is really in speaking with the community of Rutland and the way things are generally laid out here in town. But at this time, I'd like to let you take over, Peter, if you would, or Kent, and just describe your plan on what you did and why you did it. And let's have everybody listen to these guys talk about their two plans here, and then we can get into comments and questions then.
Hey, Chris? Chris?
Yeah, Doug, yeah.
Is there any way they can put it up on the screen? Because I don't have that.
Okay. Peter, do you have? Peter has it.
I have the, first off of all, good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board and other participants. Peter Campobasso on behalf of Harbor Classic Homes. I do have
There should be another drawing with all the units on it. Do you have the next page, Peter? Yep, there you go.
There we go. So we, if I may, we submitted 2 plans. The first plan that was shown,
You want to go back to that one, Peter? You want to have Mr. Crane put that one up for you?
yeah, that's the proposed A&R plan, which will create the 3 lots for the parcel off of Maple Ave. So that the area that's identified as Lot 1 is Area C on your Rutland Heights reuse plan. The area that's shown as Lot 2 is the Area A that's on your Heights reuse master plan. And then the remaining land, the land below, would be the Area B land that's going to remain with the town. So we felt that this, one of the discussions we had initially at the first meeting was creating an A&R plan to establish the lots. So this is the plan that we would want to bring to the town planning board to get approved. Based on that, if you go to the second plan, we can talk about the proposed concept plan. There you go. Thank you. So at the last meeting, we discussed essentially whether or not to include housing units on Lot 1 as it's shown on the plan. And the sentiment and the consensus was to sort of move everything off of Lot 1, move it up into Lot 2, and try to focus the housing project up there and leave possible options for Lot 1 open for further discussion. In the process of moving up the hill to concentrate, our thought was within the bylaw to calculate how much land there was, what the density area regulations would allow. Reason being, it almost makes sense for us to have an idea of the total number of units that could possibly go there, instead of just focusing on a fixed number, not knowing exactly how the final project will play out once we get some site work done and we get some investigative work done that's going to substantiate and support how many units can go up there. So our thought, Harbor Classic's thought was, let's, let the town know that there's the potential for more than 88 units so that we don't start drawing final plans and then come in with more units and have it be a surprise to the town. So we feel more comfortable saying, we know we need at least 88 units to make the project, financially viable. We probably need more units depending on how many different amenities we want to incorporate into the project. So we feel that at least this may work, knowing that we still have to go through the formal presentation, the formal peer review and all of that stuff. So we figured we'd come in with what we thought we might maximize the area with the understanding that more than likely this is going to be somewhere between 88 units and no more than what you see here.
Okay.
Well,
Anything else, Peter?
No,
Pretty much
that,
everything? Okay. Just a couple comments I just want to make, and then I'll open up the rest of the board, review board. I know in the last meeting, I think the review board had talked about requesting a second entrance or connection, if you will, in the Y and the road there, using that roadway, but between the pond and your Lot 2, and then connecting up down around the corner there. I think that's units like unit 55 and 54 tying in that way to provide a second access to this location. And then again, as part of the master reuse plan, open space is one of the items that this plan really doesn't have much to show of. And that's one of the things they wanted in some of the residential type settings for the over 55s, in a community like this, that there would be, some, and whether it was a buffer to an existing parcel or just general open space for community use, or this little community's use, was part of that as well. And so those are my original comments. I think this quantity of units is awful heavy for the size it is. And that's just in keeping with the nature of Rutland, the dimensions that you're using for your roadway frontage to each duplex and between each duplexes. I know this is an A&R lot, but I think to keep with the community, a general guideline would be the over 55 bylaws that might give you some kind of parameters to work with. And we want to work with you with what we're gonna find in the site there. I know you still got to get over that hurdle too, Peter, at some point. But I think just to give you somewhat of a barometer, if you will, of the type of community Rutland is, in keeping with the general flavor of Rutland, I think this might be a little heavy. But at this time, I just want to open it up to any of the board members and get their comments.
Okay, that's fine.
Doug, Jim, Michelle, Dick, you guys have any comments on these plans?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Jim.
What is the area, square footage or acreage of lot 2 versus with 142 units shown on it versus the original proposal of houses in 2 separate areas that was originally proposed, I think, with 88 units.
If just to clarify one thing before Peter speaks, I know the original plan, I don't think it had a lot yet. And that was one of the first hurdles we had to kind of conquer. This lot is 32.58 acres. And I did some calculations on this, to what's allowed even in the senior housing. So quantity of units per acreage, or it goes by the square footage, okay? And this is within that. But as far as the other one, I'll let Peter speak to the size of the first lot.
Peter, if I could.
I'm trying to find the other plan.
The original, the plan, Peter, Kent Oldfield.
Okay, go ahead, Kent.
The other, the 2 lots, lot 1 and lot 2, are both the same size. They haven't changed since the previous plan.
That is correct, and I would agree with that, Kent. On your second submitted plan, or that is 32.58 acres as well. Yep. And that was the one that had more than 88 units, though, combined between 2 lots. That
Correct.
was the last plan we reviewed at the March 10th meeting, Jim. And then there was the original plan at the very first meeting we had that they submitted, but I didn't see any acreage on that plan, Kent. Do you remember that? Do you recall that original plan? It was labeled P1, just plan of land. It was dated. This was dated June 22nd, 2018. I don't know. All right. New England Engineers. I don't know if that was you guys. Yeah, that's you guys. I think that was the one that might have been submitted with your application. But at that time, there was no lots determined. That was the plan we used to talk about determining lot lines.
I think if I'm understanding Mr. Purrington's question, I think he just wants us to try to give him an idea of how many unit or buildings were initially proposed on the upper area, if I'm understanding his question correctly.
Wasn't it 76 originally?
Yeah. I guess my point is I can't really do it without without a little more data, but the point I might be making is that there's enough area in lot 2 to put in more than 88 units and have space left for some of the amenities. And lot one may not even enter into it anymore. I am just by what I see, it appears that lot two is significantly bigger than the original proposal's area. So you should be able to put in more living units and have room for the center and open space,
So
and
on,
not be playing us for lot one as well. That's my point.
okay, and I can tell you that that's not the intent of Harbor Classic Homes. I think they do show a proposed clubhouse on this lot right now. If you look to just to the left of where the 400 water supply protection zone is, that building is a proposed clubhouse.
Right, they're just below the green parking lot, right?
Correct.
The
Yeah.
big green parking lot.
Yes.
Yeah, I hadn't noticed that before. Thank you.
And we are looking into how to incorporate open space or recreational use areas within the site. Some of the things that we've been talking about may be, obviously walking trail, maybe a biking trail, possibly some area where a community garden could take place. So those are things that are being considered. And to the chairman's point earlier, I've pretty much have been trying to get ideas and use based on your senior housing bylaw provision, which we're trying to utilize and use to sort of be the guide on how to present this and how to prepare it. So everything would be done in a manner that would be consistent with that. So I don't think that we're off target here. It might appear to be a little overwhelming from the initial proposal. But as I said earlier, I think it probably makes more sense for us to sort of give you what we think might be a possibility to go there, just so that you're aware of it now versus having us start to do, hard site engineering and come in with something that's totally inconsistent with 88 units.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Does the rest of the board members have a general, what do they think of the quantity of units on this lot at this time? What do you guys think?
Chris?
I feel this is Dick Williams. I feel that it probably could work. Even though that 400 foot, don't let that get in the way, because I think you could do other things in that area. You talked about, open space and whatever. That's going to be ideal. I've mowed up there for many years, so, but being on the planning board, second access is very real, because I talked to the DPW director today at noon, and looping the water is going to be a big thing. He wants that thing looped.
Good idea.
So, and then up on the top there, you've got a 30-foot buffer. That part of that is a trail already, more to the left. And then down on that left-hand thing there would be nice. That's a pretty good size, a good walking trail. It was built very, let's put it this way, it's been there for so many years. It's great. It's great walking bike trail. And it's something I think you should be able to use to help bring people in, to walk and exercise.
And that's on the left side of this. That's on the left side of this drawing, Dick?
Yes, where it says Jerry Christoph.
Yeah, along that border.
Right
Okay,
on the border.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And is there any way of possibly, that's being used by all the townspeople at this time, correct, Dick? And
Well-
possibly a way of, keeping that open to the general public? Is that possible? Is that your intent, Dick?
Well,
Your idea?
it has been from day one when our first town administrator wanted to put like a conservation restriction on it to maintain it as such forever. But I feel that if Harbor Classics want to come in and keep it open for everybody, I think it's a great idea. I think it's
Sure.
super.
Thank you, Dick. Doug, do you have something? Doug,
Yeah.
please go ahead.
Okay, I guess at the first, snap at what we're looking at, it just seems to me like, wow, just so over congested for a little town like Rutland. And then I have concerns number 2, where you have the lot line by the Y. It looks like you're just coming down and cutting the lot line off so that the road, in essence, just ends there. And my concern would be is that I would think we would look at that road as an extended so that we can get access to the other parts of the property. The other thing I have a question for is the fact that, as you all know, we have a limitation on sewer. We have 30,000 gallons. And I look at this and I'm saying that this, in essence, would take almost 100% of that 30,000 gallons. And I would think that the RDIC would want to be able to retain some other sewer capacities for lot number 1 or whatever we may end up doing on the parcel to the south. But overall, I just again haven't seen the detail, but I just look at it and say, wow, I don't like the fact that there's only one entrance in, especially when you're talking seniors and accessibility in terms of public safety. There should be something, what I'm looking at is at least coming down that Y and coming in the backside so that you can get there, the egress from both sides, instead of having to wave yourself all the way through the maze in order to get somebody on the backside.
Yeah, Doug, I think that's a great point because that back lower southern side is kind of landlocked by the pond and the stream coming out of the pond heading south. So for the town to really have any use or access to that bottom left corner, I think that's a great point about continuing that road down, making it a formal road, if you will. And then it can go, if we want to use that to go up to the to what these folks are planning, and then we'll still have an access right where the little T is right now in this plan. That's right where the 45 bend is in his lot line. You'll see a little T, and that's the existing, pathway road. It's a light roadway right now. That's kind of the general area, Mr. Camabas. So just it kind of fits with your dimensions right here. It might just be off a little bit, give or take, and we can tweak the lot lines, to conform the road because it is on that very steep hill. There's not a lot of room to move the road to coordinate to a plan. It'd be easy to move the lot line to the road once you kind of determine where that road should go. But yeah, good point, Doug. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, go ahead.
just Kent Oldfield, just wanted to bring up a couple of things on that roadway. That roadway being in the 400-foot, that's going to be, DCR is probably, I can't say that they are not going to allow that, but the Cohen bill and everything, I believe that was put in effect after the fact that this road and all this was deeded out for the RDIC. So it's going to be an uphill battle to put any impervious area on that within that 400-foot water supply protection district. That's why we did not put it down that way. We did put a double barrel. If you saw it in the plan, we did put a double barrel for for emergency vehicles. If something's in the way, they will be able to get up in that location. But yeah, that's probably one of the biggest things that's going to stand in our way to getting that roadway in there. Talking about the sewer with 142 units, that's only 20,000 gallons because it's using Title V numbers. That's 150 gallons per unit. It's different than a 110 gallons per day per bedroom. So therefore, it's 21,300 gallons that would be for this proposal.
Hey, Ken, thank you. And that's a good point about the roadway. I'm might just ask Mike Sullivan on this, but I remember the solar contractor in discussions with them. I thought, Mike, I'm gonna ask you, didn't they have conversations with the DCR on this and they had allowed them to, cut this roadway in to access that area for the solar? Do you recall anything of that nature?
Yeah, no, we never, well, to the best of my knowledge, they never got to the DCR level, Chris.
Okay.
I wonder though, and maybe it's a stretch, that roadway that was there, kind of still is there. What would DCR say about that? I mean, that's an existing roadway that we just want to keep using.
And I'll even ask this question for Kent too. Is there any exception to upgrade a roadway that's existing, Kent?
Yes or no. I mean, if it's existing there and then we show the pavement that kind of goes down and then there's some broken pavement that goes further beyond that.
Yeah.
It all comes down to, the impervious area. And again, that's something we're going to have to ask DCR. I just want to point out it could be a hurdle, but it's not like the Riversville where we had the redevelopment that you can redevelop in a river. This is a water supply. It's completely different.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask a question?
Yeah.
Doug and Dick, you would probably remember this. That road was paved all the way up around to what we know as the nursing quarters at one time, correct?
Correct. And also paved down to the dump.
Correct. So the only reason that it's not still paved is because when they cleaned the site, they ground the pavement. Agreed?
Yes.
Okay. So I just, it's certainly worth, I guess, discussing, I would think, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Might be something worthwhile talking to DPW about, should the lot line be on the other side of the road and the town take it over and put the road in for access to the dump?
I was gonna mention that too, because we still have to access the dump area, right, to get to that dam, because we have to clear the dam every once in a while.
That's right.
That's a great point, guys. I mean, and let's face it, in all conversations, I think the DPW in the town of Rutland is going to probably have a easier path to complete this than someone like, Harbor Classic Homes would, they might be a little more amenable if there's any, if there is any leeway for them to allow. I don't know.
Well, in addition to that, Mr. Chairman, the dump site has to be mowed. I don't remember if it's annually or biannually, but it certainly has to be accessible.
So you need the proper access to get the equipment down there to maintain that.
Yep.
And it's been there forever. So, I mean, let's face it.
So, this is Jim, Mr. Chairman. Related to that, I think the top. I mean, it seems at a minimum the southeast angled the angled lot line on lot 2 between lot 2 and the pond should be moved the other side of that existing road that needs upgrading. But if the town is unable to upgrade and use that road, then the town needs access outside of the 400-foot buffer. Lot 2 is bigger than it should be to protect the interests. Just to protect access to the southern part of the lot. I think that needs to be established before we continue with.
That's a very good point, Jim. That's a very good point. If we're going to lose access within that 400-foot buffer, that's going to be an issue for the town to work out here. A little bit above our pay grade, huh, Jim? Right now?
I think it's still, right at the moment, it's still town. And I think it's worthwhile to have a good discussion, with Joe and Mike I think we all ought to sit down with them and have a good talk about it.
Before talking to DCR, just internally.
Before talking to DCR, talk to Joe about it, and get an idea, or some cost wise or whatever, and what distance.
Yeah.
Because I'm supposed to up above where the school is. I'm supposed to have a talk with the Central Mass Regional Planning, because he did not get the grant that he wanted to fix that road all the way out to Main Street. So we're going to try to do it again. So this might fall back into that also. So that's what I mean. We need to have a talk with Joe.
Chris, through the chair, it's Tim Norwald.
Go ahead, Tim.
Hey, I wanted to comment on two things, just to let you know. The double barrel into the senior center, or I should say senior center, into the 55 and over, that's not uncommon. The planning boards allow that type of entrance. An example of that's Moose Crossing off of 68. So it's not unheard of that this hasn't been done inside of Rutland. And then secondly, talking about the road, what we haven't asked is there could be easements granted for this. So there's a whole slew of easements that could be granted to the back of that property if need be by Harbor Classic Homes to the town. So that's another option. That's it. Thanks, sir.
Yeah,
Mr. Chair.
no, we do it. There's the other one off of 56 down there by the Brunel, is it, homes? There's a couple of those, and I think right on Main Street there, Lenny Gangles, one of his first developments, has that type of little double barrel thing, entranceway.
Yeah, I wanted to say it's not something it's not a first of a kind inside of Rutland.
Yeah, no, it's not. Yeah, I agree with that, Tim. And I don't have any problem with that. It's just nice to have the second entrance and egress, especially when it's right there almost. But
It's also easier for running the water line.
Chris, if I could,
go ahead, Peter.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I think the lot line from the little cutoff there, when Kent prepared the A&R plan, we had to go with the existing Rutland Heights Way.
Sure.
We didn't really have any choice in that. So the A&R plan and the configuration that you're viewing is taking into consideration, Rutland Heights Way as it exists on the ground. The boundary line or the lot line that runs from the extension, between the pond and the area, I would imagine we could look into moving that up so that it doesn't cut off the town's use of that dirt way. And as the previous speaker was pointing out, depending on how many access points might be required or needed, we can work out different easements between Harbor Classic and the town to make it so that it works for both parties. But I just wanted to point out that because of the way the town laid out Rutland Heights Way and what exists on the ground, that's kind of what we're showing on the plan.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Kent Oldfield, one more item. I did look at the just now the solar plans. Their work does stop outside that 400 foot. They did not put anything inside the lower 400 foot zone. So all their new roadway that they were going to put in was outside that.
Well, they were using that existing roadway, but they were going to be digging a duck bank right down to that road.
They did have a duck bank, but they weren't improving it as far as pavement or anything. I think they were just going to remain what it was.
Just leaving the road as it was.
Right. Yeah, that does show a duck bank. You're correct.
I mean, and let's face it, guys. Even the other part of Rutland Heights Way is within the 400 zone. So what does that mean? We cannot maintain the road? If
That's right. Yeah.
You need to repave the road. You don't repave. I think there's got to be some latitude to maintain what's existing there, and not just let it slowly go back to like Chernobyl and It just doesn't, that's possible, right? I mean, you must be able to maintain it, no, Ken?
Yeah, yes, you can.
Yeah.
And there are clauses for maintaining existing roadways. And that's something, again, like Peter said, you know, having that access road, if that's, you know, if we can have that, maybe we can have that as an emergency access, not improving it such. And because it is there and it is a cart road, just keeping it and in other projects we've had is keeping it a drivable, plowable area and have more of a crash gate that we could have for an emergency use later on down the road if DCI does not allow it. So that's a possibility.
And that's a really good point, Dick, because then if in doing so, that the water loop in and around there, we could put the water loop in that. I mean, if DCI was going to let them put a duck bank in there, they got to let you put a water line in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Conservation loves water, don't they?
Yes, they do.
But, you know, to the point, Kent, you know, just some type of, you know, secondary or emergency type access. But, you know, again, all the proper townspeople would have the keys to access that roadway and maintain any water line if there was ever an issue there.
Yeah, I don't think that's a problem. And I don't think the water line's a problem as well. So I think that's something that DCI would allow is, you know, just upgrading that roadway or keeping the roadway paved or stoned or, you know, whatever the stage it is right now.
In a non-impervious type manner. Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
But I still would suggest though that we go for having it paved, right? Like we would still want to push to have it paved, considering that it was a pre-existing road. And the fact that, like, what is the charter for this property, right? Is to develop it. And I think it would be hard to develop the property if you couldn't use the roadways that were there.
We definitely would ask DCR. I mean, that would be preferred, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay, and then again, you know, if that roadway was allowed, you know, that lot line could just shift up to the other side of that roadway, right, Kent? That wouldn't be an issue.
That's right. And like Peter said, you can move that up so the land would be that or an easement of some sort.
And even from a density point of view, just losing that little strip, you're still well within the quantity of units for the acreage.
Yes.
You know,
Well,
half an acre or something ain't gonna hurt you guys with this, even with this quantity of units.
It's not going to change. It's not going to change. And like I said, if we move that up, we can move that other line down a few feet to gain that extra area, whatever, because that down below is more wetland area anyway. So.
And also, Dick, you know, if we did get that road in there, that could allow access to that back path along the Christoph lot line to public people to access those walking trails and you know.
Good point.
You know, some type of burden inside this community, you know. Okay, any other questions, comments, complaints?
One comment related to
easement.
easement.
Give you a second. Go ahead, Jim.
One comment related to easement. Just that if the town may at some point have a user of the property that requires coming and going all the time, and an easement through a residential property might not meet anybody's needs. I think the town needs permanent access to that back property, and if DCR allows it on the existing road that can be upgraded, that's the great solution. If they don't, the town needs permanent access somewhere else. I just don't see how an easement's going to do it.
Thanks, Jim. Michelle?
Yeah, so I'm not really, I don't know exactly the water limits, but given this, if we did full density on the housing here, would we have enough water then if we tried to develop something commercial down on the front of the property? I'm not sure how much water would be left over. That I would be concerned about that, especially if we were looking at like a restaurant or something there.
You're just talking general water capacity, you know, available.
Right, because we have the set aside amount, right? We have an amount set aside for the entire property. Dick, you might know?
No, I'm just laughing at myself because of the artesian well that's next to the flagpole down there, they can always tap into that and feed some of the condos or the units.
Mr. Chairman, Kent
Go
Oldfield.
ahead, Ken. Yeah.
As far as the flow, again, you said you had 30,000 gallons. We were going to have about 21,000 gallons with this development as it shows. Just looking at a restaurant, that extra 10,000 gallons, that would be a 285 seat restaurant, which obviously would be a very large restaurant, and probably wouldn't even fit in lot one. Just to give you a sense of how much gallons.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah,
That's
good
very
point, Ken.
helpful.
Were you talking about waste or drinking water?
That's that's wastewater. So I assumed your 30,000 gallons per day is your wastewater.
It was, yes, but it was more than that. It was 36 or 38,000.
Okay, well, 38. We're only going to be taking 21,000 with this. What would you see there before you tonight?
Okay, so you're the 21,000, and Dick, you're saying we have 38,000 capacity. Is that
It's
correct?
either 36 or 38, and I think it's 38.
No, it's not.
It isn't.
No, wasn't that high.
Yeah,
It was actually
could've sworn
35.
I thought Gary moved it up.
Well, if it's in the mid-30s,
Based
I think
off what
still-
we were using in the hospital at the time it was open.
That would, if it's 35, you would still have 13,000 gallons. I did 10,000 gallons on the numbers previously, so.
And not that I question Kent, but we should have Joe also verify that the usage amounts.
Yes.
Sure.
I mean, it's this sewer.
Yeah, I agree. I think we got some action items here, Doug, for a conversation with Joe. Get those things clarified, and get a game plan on that pond side roadway there, the lot line roadway, on how to handle that with DCR. But in keeping with our charter here, to review this plan, just to keep everybody on that track. Overall, obviously, to Jim Purington's point, if we get kicked out of this watershed area, the 400-foot water, that's gonna change everything. And again, he's losing a lot of open space for his project, let alone our roadway and access to that lower zone. But just from a density point of view and the access, are we okay with it? Are we just not crazy about it? Or I just want to try to give Peter a good feeling of, where we're at here from this review board point of view.
I'll say that I'm not too crazy about the density,
Thank you.
but I can understand the point too, where he wants to have as much, if I understand Peter correctly, once they get in there, they might not be able to build on all of that, right? They might find that there's parts where there's whatever there and they can't. So there might be pockets of open space, but I'm not really sure what that would look like.
And that's a great point, in Michelle, and I wanted to express that to Peter Cambabasso and the whole HCH team, that personally is where I'm coming from. The density of this magnitude on this size lot is not really so amenable with me. But I would be okay with it in clusters if need be to get this to a level where it's financially feasible for him and beneficial for both parties, the town and him. And again, if he hits some things on the ground and we can make that open space, then okay. We got to try to work around certain things here and mitigate certain problems. I'm okay with that. Granted that the buffers around the lot lines are still maintained and we're still meeting the general A&R, lot constraints. Is that the general feel from the board here right now at this time?
Yeah. And I just one comment, Chris, I agree with everything you said. And again, I just want to make sure that we're building something for the seniors that is going to be something that the seniors want to spend the rest of their lives at, instead of being a jammed in, side by side, looking into your neighbor's windows, all those different things. I just want them to be able to say, I really enjoy coming up here. And I don't know with the density if that's something we're going to attain.
Again, yeah. on this magnitude, I kind of agree to be, you're over rows and rows of structures, and that's pretty tough. But if you had some open space here and there and things like that, I think that would be a little more in keeping with things. Great point. Any Dick, Jimmy, any other comments? Anything else you'd like to add or say or agree to? Or disagree to?
I think I'm all set at the moment.
Thanks, Dick.
Dick?
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, Dick's comment earlier about the walking path on the west side, maintaining public access to that.
Yeah. Okay, at this time, like any of the other town departments that might be online here, I see Dave George just popped up on my screen. I'd like to hear from him and any others. Dave, I'll open the floor to you first.
Great, thank you, Chris. So as I mentioned earlier, I do have a meeting with the Regional Planning Commission in a few minutes. So I was just wondering if there's anything else, any questions that you had of staff. Otherwise, I had just a quick question about the process. I'm wondering if this can come to a landing tonight to close the concept plan hearing and that they have enough instructions on what to do going forward, or do you feel there's another need for another round of concept plan?
That's a really good question. And I'd like to discuss that with the review board. Once we get all these comments from everybody, Dave, it would be nice to try to get this concept phase closed. But I think we'll have to just go over that with the review board here and see if they feel comfortable with, and also Peter Campobasso to make sure that, him and his client feel that they've got what they need from us as well. And I'd like to have that discussion in just a few minutes. Yeah, that's a great point, Dave. Thank you.
All right, if I have to take off, I'll check in with you tomorrow to see what finally happened, or watch the remainder of the video here.
Terrific. Dave, before you bug out, does anybody have any questions for Dave before he jumps offline? All righty, sir. Have a good evening.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Any other department heads, any other town members have any questions or comments?
Yeah, this is Peter Crane. If you don't mind, I can't raise my hand, so.
Go right ahead, Peter. You're the man.
So it looks like, so I'm just wondering what your plan is about the slope. Are you planning to bring in a bunch of fill to make this fundamentally a level area for all the housing units? I mean, again, this is all concepts and I get that, but I'm just wondering if you have what your thoughts are about that, because it looks like it's a bunch of fill to make it level, but that's not an objection, it is merely a question.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Kent Oldfield.
Please do, Ken.
No, we would not be filling these. These are all going to be slope roads coming down, trying to conform, and all the foundations would be stepped down the hill. Minimal slopes. The only thing we have to make sure is if the roadway meets the subdivision rules and regulations as to width and grade.
That's okay. So basically, you're going to try and follow the lay of the land.
That's correct.
Yeah, with a certain amount of give leeway, of course.
That is correct.
And my second question is roadway length. Does this constitute a dead end road, and are we over the amount of distance that public safety? Again, I know it's a concept, but I see lots of ways to turn around, which is a good thing, which is I think what public safety wants. But I'm just wondering about the applicability of a maximum length of a dead end road.
Technically, it's not a dead end road because there are exits on every one of these streets, and getting back to that emergency access that we would be bringing at the end of that so-called Y of Rutland Heights Way would also be, either way, we're going to have that paved or we're going to have it a gravel area that would be plowed for an emergency access.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be, and we have the double barrel entrance as well.
Right. All right. Thank you very much. That's all my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Jeff Stillings.
Thank you, sir, for asking for opinions. Just speaking for myself as an individual, I would echo the sentiments of Michelle and Mr. Briggs concerning the density in there. It does give the appearance, at least, of getting a little greedy, especially when we are right up to the limits of water and sewer capacity, even with the supposed allotment that they have been allowing in the the assessments in there, when we were right up to it, and it just seems a little, the word greed comes to my mind, and I thought 88 might have been a little bit on the high end. So that's my personal opinion. That's all. Thank you for asking for that. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Selectman. Anybody else? Any other? Okay, open this up to the public if there's any public members that are online here and would like to have a comment or a question. Please raise your hand. Peter Crane, if you can see any of them, or feel free to let them speak.
Nope, I'm gonna lower Jeff's hand, but other than that, I don't see any other hands raised.
Chris, this is Tim Norwald. I apologize. I can't get this hand thing to work. I just wanted
That's
to give a quick comment. I understand the comments on the density, but being on the planning board and seeing how many subdivisions and A&Rs going in Rutland, the density doesn't really concern me with the way we're building on the side of hills and such like that. What does make me excited is the tax revenue, which this town is in desperate need after this financial season goes by of more tax revenue. So the more houses that go in that aren't taking up our services or adding to our school costs, I'm happy to let them build them. Thanks.
Thank you, Tim.
And may I step in also?
Go ahead, Dick.
Just open borders?
Yeah, really.
Jesus.
You know, you're looking at a small piece of paper, but if you went up to the heights and staked out roughly, you know, what, 1, 2, 3, whatever you got here for houses, you know, they won't look quite as compact as what it looks like here. I'm just saying that it's when you get up there at the heights, there's a lot of area.
Thank you, Dick. And just a question to Kent and Peter Campambasso. Right now, per this plan, what is the distance between a duplex and so side lot lines? And I know there's not lots there, but you get the little red dash lines, basically clearing out a lot. So what is the distance between the structures as well as the distance on the front side from the road?
We're keeping 20 feet between, because that is 20 feet plus, and 20 feet. I think it was 25 feet from the front to the edge of pavement. And yes, those red lines, those what we call exclusive use areas. Those will be use areas that'll be deeded for each one of the units. And we keep more than 20 feet between buildings because that's NFPA firefighting regulations for suburban firefighting.
Chris, to you, to Tim Narwhal, Jim Susi. Tim, isn't that a lot closer down there?
Yeah, Jim's were closer, and he had to go to the fire marshal to basically come up with a plan to allow it, and because that was a big question that came through Seth, our fire chief. Yeah. And again, Jim did all the proper documentation and also had the requirements for firewalls between the buildings. So, because he was within that 20 feet, he was within the NFPA area, if I remember that discussion correctly.
Yep. Do you remember what the separation was? It was very narrow. I'm thinking like
15. It was like in some places it was 15, and in some places it was 10 or 11. So it was relatively close.
Yeah, okay. That is that's extremely close.
Yeah.
So you can have a extremely you follow the code, and that's the key component.
Yes.
Okay, so you're saying that over 55 that Jim Susi has already built in town are 15 feet apart. Is that what you're saying?
I don't remember Chris' exact number, but it was below the NFPA requirement because that came up as an issue.
Okay. I think just as a point of note too, it's 30 feet in our bylaw for the 55, and over housing. So just for what it's worth.
I think the requirement for a fire lane is 15 feet. That's in the senior housing bylaw, but that would have to be confirmed by the fire chief. I think there's a provision, I can't remember the exact letter or the wording, but obviously this would have to be presented to the fire chief
Sure.
for approval.
All right.
And if I could, just to follow up on some of the density concerns and the density. Obviously, we understand that, as I said, it's not the intent to put forth something here to overwhelm. And what it's really boiling down to is, proper use of the land, keeping in the back of our minds that what we want to propose here, we're going to need to add amenities to the site, as one of the speakers was pointing out earlier. At some point we have to be concerned with sales, and we want to have people that are legitimately interested and enthusiastic about moving to the site. Having the flexibility to have more units will help Harbor Classic incorporate other amenities that are going to make the project attractive and are going to want to make the people in the project happy to be there. And that's why we thought the better way to proceed tonight would be to say, here's what we think the maximum density capacity would allow. Now we want to get into the formal site plans and start to really, get into the engineering, figure out what works, what doesn't work. Once we do our site work, where the units can really be placed and how things can be incorporated in, and what the final number is. You're going to see the final number on a formal site plan once we get to the engineering part of it, and we can start presenting formal plans to the town. It's not the intent to just go in and stack as many units in there as we can. That's not the intent.
Thank you, Peter. Thanks for, expressing that and letting us know, letting us know, and we did talk. I mean, I remember the conversation, looking at this thing from a maximum point of view, so to speak, in our last meeting. I know there was some discussion of that, but thank you for explaining, what and why you did there. That certainly helps out a lot. And we know this is still, this is a very fluid plan right now. There's a lot of things for the town still to work out as far as talking about the road and whatnot.
And keep in mind that this is just a concept plan. It's not anything more than the board giving us a sense that, yeah, we like the concept. We know what the issues are that pertain to the concept. And, now let's move to the formal process. So this isn't, the final plan by any stretch of the imagination, but we do want to get a sense from the board that they're pretty much in agreement or understand and are willing to approve a concept such as this, so that we can start moving forward with formal design and things of that nature.
Okay, great. Doug, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say pretty much on the tail of what Peter said. I believe that what we've done tonight is we have localized the general area where we're going to put the homes. We've taken lot 1 out of the equation, but now we're looking at lot 2. We gave out questions of whether we're going to do DCR. We talked about density. We talked about sewer. We talked about water. So a lot of those things are now in the mix that we're going to be working with. But I believe in terms of the initial conceptual plan, I believe that we've met the criteria that we were looking for in terms of trying to set the footprint of where the plan was going to go.
Okay, thank you. One question, Tamika, was there any feedback? I know we just got the plan on Monday of this week, I believe, the 29th. Was there any feedback from any other departments that you circulated these drawings to within the town? Did they get back to you with anything?
Nope. The only department that I heard from was Chief Monaco with the police department, and he had no concerns. Other than that, I didn't have feedback from anybody.
Okay, thank you. And again, we're in a premature stage here, just to just as I know, I'm sure we'll have some more time for them to review final site plan. We'll
Chris,
be able to mitigate
Tim
their
Narwhal.
feedback, deal with their feedback then. Go ahead, Tim.
I wanted to add to what you said. Chief Knight called me up and asked me about the double barrel, and I told him that from a planning board standpoint that was accessible for fire and any type of emergency equipment, because we had allowed that on multiple areas in town, specifically Moose Crossing. So that was the fire chief's only concern that he had at the time when he talked to me.
But Tim.
Can I just ask one question, Chris?
1 second.
Okay.
On that note, Tim, and one thing for Peter Campobasso, looking at that plan in the double barrel there, I'm just going to shoot this out there as an idea for a matter of safety. I feel that double barrel should continue down in front of the units for a little bit, so that you kind of have like a bottleneck. If traffic's coming down from the units and a car is turning in from the bottleneck to go down towards the first corner, it really gets tight there. So again, I'm no traffic expert. I just know, I live on a street where there's a school right across, and the road bottlenecks right down in front of my house. And I've had people just go off the road right into my yard sometimes and hit the tree in front of my house. So just I know this is not that fast of a road, but just think about that. And to Kent and Peter, just something to think about. Again, your thing. Go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, just a comment. That traffic does move on that road. And to the double barrel, I had the same concept, bringing it up further. I know Tim talked about Moose Crossing, and Moose Crossing, I don't think their double barrel there is only about 150 feet long. I think it goes up into the development. And I agree with you totally that it's going to end up bottlenecking right in that intersection if they don't bring it up a little bit further into the development.
Yeah, just so as traffic's approaching that intersection, they've been separated into the bottleneck lanes, either coming or going, and then it'll flow straight across through the intersection. But again, I don't want to get into too many details right now. That was just a quick comment. Anything else from anybody?
Mr. Chairman, just one comment on the double barrel road.
Yep.
Brunel East, that double barrel road, if I remember correctly from 20 years ago, is I think close to 1,000 feet long, and Moose Meadows is easily that long. So I mean, I don't know how long this is. I haven't blown it up big enough, but it's nowhere near that.
Yeah, no. That's
Moose
for sure.
Meadow does have a emergency exit right near 68. Also, so no matter if it's a double barrel, it still has a gravel emergency exit.
All right. So at this point, if there's no other comments from any of the town members, public comments, I would like to discuss, and Mr. Crane, Peter Crane, if you see anybody looking to speak, please, I only see about 4 or 5 people on my screen. So by all means, please just interrupt me and we'll let them speak. But at this time, there's nobody else. I'd like to discuss with the review board how they feel about allowing this as a loose conception, plan, and and start digging into the details of a site, formal site plan.
Chris, can I just add something quickly?
Sure, Michelle, please.
Sorry. I just had this thought because we were talking earlier about keeping the trail access around the perimeter of the property.
Yep.
And we had talked with Solar about using that trail access as potential emergency access as well, if the trail is wide enough to fit. But I don't know that a fire truck would fit down there is my only concern.
Yeah, I think when we talked about that would be just for like a 4-wheeler to go up and, if someone was walking and had a heart attack or something, you'd be able to, you wouldn't be able to get like, the actual trucks up there, but,
Yeah.
you get
So it would be a
small up
smaller
there.
vehicle that we were talking about with the Solar. Got it. I just thought of that and I wanted to mention it.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Just in maintaining that access. And again, that just strengthens that road to, to get down to the, that lower lot there. Thank you. Doug, Michelle, Dick, and Jim, what are your thoughts as far as, kind of taking a vote on this conceptual plan and giving the applicant the reason to move forward here, the okay to move forward with this. What are your thoughts?
I'll make a comment. I think access to lot 3 is part of the concept plan, so I'll vote no.
Okay. The only thing,
Well, what would the motion be? What would be the motion that we're voting on though? Like,
I think it would just be to close the hearing.
just to close the portion of the concept plan. So we're not approving this plan for any type of construction or forward movement with the town. They, just so everybody knows, this applicant will have to come back in and file formal site drawings. And those site drawings will have all the calculations for the retention basins, all the roadway, the water flow in the roadways, the water and sewer calculations, any street lights, all the dimensions of the sidewalks that he shows, and all the dimensions and the signage, the stop lines in the roadways. It's going to have a dimension of the actual structures, so we can see the height, the width of it, the distance from the road, is a paved driveway, the garages in it. So all those types of things, and then all the amenities that they choose to show and have there, along with all the open space as well. So really, that's when you get into a detailed set of drawings that construction will ultimately be able to happen from.
and we also need to get back to them with the roadway, right? Like, we have homework to do in the meantime as well in terms of the road.
Oh yeah, there's homework, and it's not this review board, but someone in the town does. And I want to discuss that too also, right after just kind of talking about this concept plan, because we've got some action. The town has some action items here. Dick discussed meeting with Joe and figuring out, all those items that we discussed about. And Dick, did I hear you volunteer that you were going to go speak with him on that?
Yes, I'll go down and see Joe again. More than happy to.
I'll be happy to join you too. If you set it up, let me know.
Very good.
And that's to get the okay for DCR on the access road?
Yes, to discuss that access road and how we approach DCR. Yeah.
So that's kind of a major issue then.
Well, it's a real major issue. And to Jim's point, he doesn't feel comfortable giving the okay in a concept plan here without knowing that road. And I would just state that I agree with him. I think we got to leave it open here that we're not agreeing that they own that piece of land that the roadway's on. We're not approving this lot size tonight. That is going to be at the formal site plan. Right? We are not saying that these are the final lot lines, by no means. We are not saying this is the formal final layout of all the roadways and the quantity and size of the units. We are just saying that we're okay with this quantity and this density. We're saying that we got to still work out the roadways. We still got to work out some things. But in general, I can tell you right now that the HCH team's got a lot of engineering to do here to get these drawings going. They've got to dig test holes up there, and the town's got some work to do, like we said, on the roadway, and creating access, creating access to that lower section and potentially the walkway along the Christoph line.
Chris, if I could just interject here, I don't mean to interrupt, but if the board could just keep in mind that there's really a concept plan that's before the HPDD board. We've submitted both a concept plan and a proposed A&R plan. The planning board will need to approve the plan for us to really, be proceeding formally. So that's not the purview of the board. And the issue about access and where the exact lot line is going to be and where it should remain, that will really be fleshed out when we present the A&R plan to the planning board. So from a concept plan perspective, please keep in mind that the other plan that we've submitted tonight as well, which just shows the lot lines, that's really not for your board, that's for the planning board. But we wanted to incorporate both so that everybody had an idea as to where we were going. But as far as the concept itself is concerned, I think this plan meets the requirements that are necessary for us to get an approval. We know that there are going to be other issues. Obviously, we're hearing them. And when we do start to do the formal engineering, we are going to need to incorporate some of those concerns and address those concerns, obviously. My hope is that from a consensus standpoint, we'd be more concerned about, these are the proposed boundary lines for the lots. We know what the use is going to be. It's going to be 55 and older housing. We have an idea of the approximate location of the roadways and the layout and how it's going to flow and what the buildings will look like. So from a concept standpoint, those are the things that we really have to focus on. And I think they're there. It's just going to allow us now to go to engineering so we can prepare a formal site plan and really get into the review process. So my point, your concerns about the roadway access and all of that stuff, that will probably be flushed out as we proceed with the A&R plan before the planning board.
I agree with what you're saying, Peter, as far as, the planning board approving this lot. But I think from a conceptual point of view, those are major items. And, for us just to say, geez, whether there's one or two accesses, it doesn't matter. We'll figure it out later. I'm not sure I'm all that comfortable about, I'm not sure I agree with everything you're saying from a conceptual point of view, that it's all that easy for us to bite off on at this point with this amount. And I'm not saying the roadway is your fault or anything like that, or it's your responsibility, but it's a tough one. Some of these guys are struggling with it, and honestly, it's not easy one. It's not an easy thing to kind of put on there like a street sign kind of thing to work out in the back end.
No, and I agree, and I'm not trying to downplay or minimize the concern. I understand the concern. My point is that I think as we go forward, that will be addressed and it will be flushed out as we get into the more formal engineering and start to understand whether we can even use that roadway. It might have an impact on what can be proposed on the site.
Hey, Chris.
One thing I'd like to just talk about is lot 1 and the phase 2 retail commercial that you have there.
Okay.
And as a board, as a review board, I want to just talk to the review board. Are we going to conceptually, by approving this or approving the conceptual plan? I mean, there is no definition on that lot right now, guys. We have no idea what they're thinking. So in my opinion, I think we're just kind of looking at lot 2 right now tonight from a conceptual approval point. And, what do you guys think? And Peter, is that something, what are you looking for tonight? Are you looking for both of these lots? Are you just looking for an approval on lot 2, or, where do you think?
No, I think that in line with what we discussed at the prior meeting, it probably makes sense for, some type of any type of concept plan that you would approve tonight would be strictly for lot 2. With the notion that, the idea was there's no way we would have enough time between the last meeting and now to try to figure out what could possibly be proposed on lot 1 to somehow incorporate retail or commercial use. So instead of holding the process up and moving forward with the housing part of it, the request was, we'll move everything to the top. The concept plan that we're proposing would be approve, the residential senior housing project as phase 1, leave lot 1, phase 2 open for, down the road. And once we had a better handle on what we could possibly propose there, come back with a revised concept plan that would show a building on lot 1 for retail or commercial use. But we wouldn't want to hold up approval on lot 2, because we think that there's, obviously, we want to get going on the engineering and the design and moving towards a formal site plan.
Okay, thank you. That's a great explanation. Yeah, that gives us some clarity for where you're coming from.
Chris.
The only question I got, and I want to shoot this out there to everybody: can we approve concept hearing and therefore end up closing that hearing? But how do we just start another concept hearing when he comes back for phase 2? Do we leave it open to continue? Just your thoughts legally, guys like Doug and Dick and Michelle, you guys, some other, some of the selectmen, you guys got more, that legal kind of how to keep a meeting open and closed and all that stuff. Where do we go with this? Your thoughts?
Well, Chris, this is Tim. You could always make a motion to approve or the concept plan and specifically call out phase 1. And that way you can at least give them some direction to move on from the design standpoint stays into a engineered product for phase 1, and then just leave phase 2's concept plan still on the table. Because then you've only got a motion for phase 1, so phase 2 hasn't been released from the concept plan. It's still sitting out there.
And so this concept. So then, can the applicant apply for a site plan if we haven't done the concept in phase 2? And Peter Campobasso, do you think the concept plan for phase 2 would come before a site plan for phase 1?
If I'm understanding
legally,
if I'm understanding your question correctly, a formal site plan for lot 2, would a revised concept plan for phase 2 come before the formal site plan for phase 1 on lot 2? Is that your question?
yes. So we could close out the concept, because we can't have a concept and a site on the same property going. We have to close the concept to open a site plan review. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, I do. And I think what we can do is a couple of things. We can, I think the easiest way to handle it would be just to approve the concept plan for phase 1 for the senior housing project on lot 2. If you want to close the public hearing, we could always close the public hearing. You could make a notation, or you could have some type of a condition that we come in with a proposal for phase 2, either before we submit the formal site plan or at the same time we submit the formal site plan for review by the HPDD board.
Peter, does it make sense just to treat these as 2 separate concepts and 2 separate site plans? And from your timing, from you and your you and your team, is that the way it would go anyways?
That is definitely the way it would end up playing out, yes.
Chris.
So from a legal point of view, is that something we can do? Does anybody know?
Chris, I was just going to say, if we close out the public hearing tonight, and then HCH comes back at another time to present a concept plan for lot 1, we would essentially just start the process over again. They would have to notify abutters, we'd have to publish a legal notice, and it would just be treated separately because it could no longer be discussed if we close the hearing.
Okay.
Yes, if I could also just jump in on this. I do have 2 meetings going, but I'm not available for the other one yet. I was just going to indicate the same thing, that if these can be segmented out, if you close the entire on this one and only take action with respect to lot 2, make it clear that no action is being taken on lot 1, except that's going to be conditioned for retail commercial. Then it's just 2 separate projects at that point. And then when they are ready to come back, they would just have to go through the process again.
Okay, so we'll just treat these as 2 separate lots that they are. And this is just for lot 2. Not phase 1. We're just going to get rid of the phasing here. I know that's on your plans, and that's fine, but we really won't use that terminology then. I got you. All right. And that's all legal to do. That's not a problem, right?
It's not a problem because it's consensual. It's very clear on what's happening. And that if you are very specific that this pertains to lot 2, not to lot 1, then I think that's clear.
Okay.
Chris?
Yes, go ahead, Doug.
Yeah. Just a quick comment. I don't think we have anything to do with lot 1. All right, lot 1, retail, commercial, has got nothing to do with Harbor Homes. Harbor Homes is what we're talking about is on lot number 2. My problem is the number of years I've been involved in Rutland, and we always seem to have plans that we will promise, and I'm not have nothing to do with you, Peter. We're going to fix something, you know, whether it's Bear Hill, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and then we end up fighting at the end to get things that we never get. And I guess I agree with Jim from the respect that we have some extremely viable concerns about the ability for access roads and whatever. And I would think that if we kept this hearing open for a week or 2 weeks, and we got the effort in order to talk to DCR and whatever, so we can actually sit there and say, yes, we can put a road in, or no, we can't put a road in. If we can't put a road in, then their whole plan has changed anyway. So if we allow them, we close it out and allow them to go. I mean, I've been to the ones who are saying, well, geez, we reconfigured things based on the fact of this, and now you're putting it on hard, you know, you're putting an extra stress on us because we're going to have to redo something. So I guess my motion or whatever was saying, let's leave this open, and we can do it for 1 or 2 weeks so that we can make a more definitive idea of whether or not they're going to allow DCR, allow us to do something with the accessibility to the lower lots of the property. And if it doesn't happen, then again, we got to come back here, and then there's a whole bunch of changing that needs to be done. But I hate to close it out and say, well, we'll worry about what happens when it gets to the planning board. Well, I don't necessarily trust the planning board to do the thing. We got one parcel of land here, and we only get one shot at it. And I want to make sure that we're doing what needs to be done in a proper fashion. And I don't want to drop it off to the planning board or somebody else. If we're the review board, we should be able to look at it and say, yes, we've taken, and then once these things are figured out, then the concept plan goes immediately into the final plan. And that's kind of what we were looking to do when we put this together, is to hammer out all the concepts in the beginning so that when you came to the final review, it's almost a rubber stamp and you just move it right through.
Well, I wouldn't say it's going to be a rubber stamp, because there's a tremendous amount of engineering that has to get done. And that's going to dictate quantity and size. And you know, there's no, one detention basin hasn't even been sized yet. And how that, you know, how all that flows. So I mean, I hear what you're saying.
If I may, I don't have a problem with the board. If the board's going to have more comfort with a little more time for us to try to get a better indication as to what the options are for that roadway, I don't have a problem with that, because I think overall, my sense is that there is consensus, you know, to approve a concept plan along this lines. We just need to clarify a few issues. That's what I'm hearing. And if the board is more inclined and feels more comfortable to have some type of a definitive answer dealing with access and stuff like that, that's fine. I would not have a problem with that.
Thank you, Peter. That's okay. The only thing I just want to say is, and I want to ask this kind of question more towards Dick, is the DCR going to be, you know, how long of a process? Every time I deal with DCR, it seems to take like 5 months to get them to return an email. And you know, and with any state agency, it's just torture, especially with the COVID right now. I mean, it took me 8 months just to get a statement of apprenticeship for all my apprentices so I could re-register them for Island. I mean, I shouldn't have to wait 8 months to get sent out. And I'm just really fearful that this is gonna just lock this whole process up. Dick, what's your thoughts?
My thought is that we need to talk to Joe as soon as possible. He is in communications with the higher DCR people right this moment. And I mean, in very serious discussion. So we need to talk to him now.
Okay.
Period.
You're kind of confident we could maybe get some, get some direction here within a week or two.
I'm hoping, yes.
Okay.
I don't want to.
No,
hate to,
listen,
I
I'm
hate
no
to
one's putting you on the
bust in on
spot.
him right this second because he is
Yep.
really up against it with the higher ups at DCR. So
Okay. All right.
And we can at least try.
Yes.
And at least get a better sense as to whether we're gonna get an answer or whether it might take us a few months, because you are right. It's difficult to start the process rolling with DCR.
Tamika, one second. Tamika, what is the schedule for the zoning board? I know that there's a meeting next Wednesday and the following Wednesday. Is that correct? The 7th?
Correct. Yep. At the 7th of April and the 14th of April.
So the next night I have would be the 21st. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct.
What about the 15th? Or you stuck on
Well,
Wednesday?
Wednesdays just work good for everybody on the board, but I mean, I don't know what else is going on in town on the 15th.
Thursdays are finance committee right now through town meeting. So Wednesdays are pretty much the best day availability wise that doesn't clash with other boards that are meeting too, because we can only have so many meetings with Zoom as well. So that kind of limits us a little bit too.
Even next Wednesday with the zoning board, isn't there the big master center thing there?
So you thinking the 21st, Chris?
Yeah, that's yeah. That's 3 weeks.
Is this something that Dave George can help us with too, or?
I mean, I think just think, I mean, Dick volunteered to talk
There
to
you
Joe.
go.
So I just think we got to start the conversation with Joe. It doesn't really matter who starts that.
All right, I agree. Way to go, Dick.
get started.
Hey, Chris,
Yes.
Mike Sullivan here. Look, you guys know what your schedule is, but I sure hate to see this thing string out for another 3 weeks. Does it have to be a Monday? I know.
No, Wednesday.
Planning board, excuse me, Wednesday. Planning board meets on Tuesday and so on and so forth. How about a Monday or, we're gonna drag this out for months and, we gotta keep this thing moving. And that's.
Well, Mike, I don't really think we're going to be slowing things down much. I mean, Peter and his team at HCH, they've got a tremendous amount of work to start getting moving on. And correct me if I'm wrong, Peter Kimavaso, but you seem to have expressed that you feel confident enough that you could start those wheels turning on your end, where albeit without an official concept approval, you can still get going on things to keep you guys moving on your end. Is that correct?
Yes, there's definitely things that we have to start doing regardless of the concept plan. So if my hunch is correct, I don't think that we're going to start doing work and come back to the board and have you vote against the plan or turn down the plan. So I think there's things that we are capable of starting now so that we don't lose a lot of ground. And as I said, if one of the members is able to speak to somebody, there's also people that we can try to contact at DCR to maybe get a little sense of what would need to happen in order to get an understanding of what will be allowed and what will not be allowed, so that within a couple of weeks we can have a meeting and have that. That seems to be the big issue that the board wants some sense of an answer on. So let's try to get the answer, and we're going to keep moving anyway. We're not going to have this set us back. There are schedules that have to be met, so we're going to stick to that and keep moving forward.
And Peter, what's your time frame from transitioning to a concept plan approval to providing your first set of site plan documents? What kind of time frame are you looking at there overall, roughly? Not nothing to hold you to, but just to get a sense of your time frame.
Well, I would imagine that Kent could probably speak to that. But from our perspective, we are going to need to start doing some site work in the sense of there is going to be a need to go up there to start to dig some test pits to verify, locations and things of that nature. See what, if anything, exists under the ground So that stuff is all going to start to be scheduled now. I don't think that this is going to
And that can
cause,
proceed without approval on the concept.
Right.
correct,
That can be done at any time. You can do that right now. Yeah.
correct.
Okay. And so from an overall time point, what are you feeling between, you and Kent? What do you guys think?
I would say with probably a couple months, just, because we're gonna get to do a traffic, probably a traffic study out there. That's something that's gonna be required.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be at least a couple months.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking, a 2 to 3 month time frame.
Yeah.
To kind of get something, that detailed out, right? Okay. All right. So those 3 weeks are valuable,
Yeah, because we
And
the
to
traffic.
Mike Sullivan's point, we don't want to lose those, And if you, Peter, Camavaso, and Kent, you guys feel comfortable starting some of that, the due diligence you need to do to get your plans in motion, maybe we can stretch it out to the 21st.
Well, we definitely want to do the traffic report because we want to get the traffic report with school in session as much as school is in session. So that's,
Well, they're going back to school Monday.
yep. So that's something we want to, incorporate in that report. So
And I'm not sure if I missed it, but is it just that there are other meetings scheduled that's pushing this out to the 21st or?
Yeah, Peter, I have, the next 2 Wednesdays, I have zoning board hearings.
Okay.
So
Okay,
that ties me up the next 2 Wednesdays. I will ask the board, are there any other nights that you guys are available? I have such a busy schedule right now at night. I'm afraid to pick any other day than Wednesdays, because that's what I got for these 2 between zoning board and I've got a lot of training and Connecticut licensing and all stuff to do. Well, brutal. I've got the 27th, I've got something on the 6th next week. Is the 15th an available night for the board? That'd be 2 weeks and a day from now.
I'd have to check Zoom, Chris, just to make sure that something wasn't already scheduled on one of the accounts, because we can only
Okay.
have 1 meeting per Zoom account.
Yeah.
And we only have 2 right now because the 3rd is being exclusively
why don't we keep
by
it blank?
FinCom.
Yeah, there are already 2 meetings scheduled for that night, CIPC and the Earthworks Board.
Oh, thank you, Peter.
All right. Yeah, this Zoom doesn't make it easier. You just can't meet in the hall somewhere.
Do you want a motion
Okay, look,
to reconvene this hearing on the 21st?
Yes, we would need a motion to continue to the 21st at 6 p.m.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you, Michelle.
Great.
Thank you, Michelle. Is there any discussion regarding that? Okay, all in favor, please do a roll call. Chris
Briggs,
Senator,
aye.
aye.
Briggs, aye.
Van Ree,
Burrington,
aye.
aye.
Dick Williams, aye.
Get everybody?
That's unanimous. Motion's
Yep.
carried. We'll continue this hearing for the Harbor Classic Homes at the Rutland Heights to April 21st, 2021 at 6 p.m. Peter Camavaso, thank you for being flexible with us and keeping things moving along on your end, not allowing this to delay what you guys need to do, which, Kent, like as Kent pointed out, you guys got a solid 2 months worth of work here. So that's terrific. Thank you very much.
Okay, and thank you and thank the members of the board.
Thank you.
We
Yes,
appreciate,
Thank you.
we appreciate
Thank you
your
all.
time.
From Kent
And
Oakville, thank you.
and your feedback. It's nice that we're having these discussions. So thank
Sure
you.
is. Thank you. Have a great night.
Thanks.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Thank you.
All right, so at this time, just to transition through the agenda, any more old business, any other
Hey,
topics
Chris,
that the review
Chris,
board would
just
like to go
before-
over?
Chris, before you get off that,
Yeah.
if you're gonna have people going to talk to Joe about the roadway, I think you ought to also have them talk about the water and the sewer.
Yep.
Already have it down.
Yes, those are the 2 items.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike. Yep.
I
No,
would,
just to confer, that's a great point because we talked about that before, but we just kept talking about the roadway with Joe, but you're right. It is
well, I would
full
also,
capacity.
I would also encourage you, since you volunteered Dick Williams, to volunteer Doug Briggs as well, since he was and maybe even the chairman of the Board of Selectmen when that was done. So he's got some history there that might be helpful. You're welcome, Doug.
I'd be
All right.
more than happy to go with you, Dick.
All right, thank you.
Just let me know.
Will do.
All right.
Thank you, Doug and Chris.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, thanks for just reaffirming that. And Dick, jumping on the grenade here and leading the charge here. Because this is going to be a major issue to get through with these guys for them to really, to everybody's point, for them to really even for them to even do their design drawings, they've got to get this figured out, But anyways, okay. Thank you very much. Any other new business, old business, anything to discuss?
Chris, this is Tim. I just wanted to also throw it. I know Dick's going to beat me senseless the next planning board meeting, but it wouldn't be a bad idea to show this plan to Joe with this double barrel and see what he thinks. Does it need to be another 100 feet? Does it need to be 200 feet longer for emergency access and his DPW guys? I just thought I'd throw that out there.
We'll do it.
I tried to hand it to him and he turned it away and he says, I haven't got time to look at it. But I will bring it back to him.
Okay. I'd like to get his buy-in, Dick, before it gets to the design stage.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris, I got a basic question. So let's just assume for the moment that the state won't allow improvements to that road. Does that mean that in you folks' opinion, the plan as presented is dead? Well, and I'm just because to me, I think it was Doug raised the issue. You got to go in front of the planning board. Well, that's just a straight up A&R approval that, is basically a rubber stamp. If it meets the 1,000 feet, dead end street criteria, then the roadways are okay. Now, then it's a matter of whether you as a board are comfortable with the density only, and that's a whole separate discussion.
Well, Mike, I think there's a couple ways to skin this cat. I don't think the plan is dead. In all fairness to everybody on this board and the applicant, there are a lot of issues with this site that this review board probably shouldn't have to be dealing with. And this is no disrespect to, to the RDIC board or the planning board or the, Dave George or anything. But this is such a unique process and it's a lot of unique situations up here. We talked about, the solar, we've gone through so many different things that were really outside the review board's process. So I've just tried to keep a very flexible and fluid mind to this, just to keep things moving along, because every time we hit a roadblock, I don't want to have to just kick this back to your board and say, hey, go deal with every little thing here, But I think there's a way that you can put another road through this site outside the 400, because right now he has no roads or property on the 400-foot buffer. So just picture another road and with the road coming out the very southern side of his project, entering that southern part. I mean, maybe there's just another road outside the 400-foot way we have to create. And I think it can be done. Yeah, it'll blow his plan up, but I still think he'll have close to the quantity of units that he even shows on this plan. And that would provide access to that lower section. So I think there's, multiple ways to look at this. I don't think to answer your question, to me as a board member, I don't think it blows it up. And I'll just, if anybody else has any comments to that, I mean, if somebody else thinks it does, I'd love to hear their comments.
A question, does the RDIC, I know that maybe you can't answer it, but does the RDIC think it's important to have permanent access to the south part of the property, lot 3?
Good question.
Dick said we needed it to maintain that lower level where the AUL is. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
Right, but
and the dam.
Yeah, no, I agree.
That's right, and the dam on the stream there. But you could get to the dam on the other side, right?
If you need a roadway.
You need a roadway and
you need a roadway on that side, yeah. That's true. Yeah.
But if the, let me ask this, if the site stayed just the way it is now, that existing roadway that was ground, if it stayed just the way it is, why is that not good enough access for the town to get to the UAL and also the dam?
It could be. It very well could be. Again, and
I
that's
mean, it is now.
for us to answer. I would really go back to Joe's DBW. As long as the board, as long as this our HPDD review board doesn't really feel we need two accesses to this, paved accesses, Mike. If this board can get over that, or it is okay with this plan, I'm not saying exact quantity, but just that one main access to the Rutland Heights Road, then I think just a maintained gravel road with even like a gate where the water line can go up through, would be acceptable. And I think that's a possibility. I do.
Okay, I just
It's not
kind of,
all up to us. We'd need, as a chairman of this board, I'd want to get some feedback from other departments before I just said, hey, no problem with that. And, obviously it's among all 5 members here, not just me, but that's my opinion. Does that answer your question, Mike?
Good.
thank
Any
you.
other items or topics to discuss? New or old?
Move to adjourn?
All right, I got a motion to adjourn.
And second that.
Dick seconded. Thank you, Dick. Let's have a roll call vote on that. Chris Senical, I vote yes.
Anne
Doug
Reed,
Briggs,
yes.
yes.
Farrington, yes.
Dick Williams, yes.
Vote unanimous to close tonight's hearing.